Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Gonna go for three stocks. One looks bullish, one looks really bullish, but maybe a little bit overextended, and another one doesn't look bullish at all. But because it looks so bearish, there might be some potential bullish development that may happen. So the bullish stock I'm talking about is my biggest holding is Palantir. And according to Chris Patel, this is a meme stock, although I think a lot of us do end up disagreeing with that, but that's okay. I'm a technical cat, so I'm going to stick with the technicals over here. What you're going to see here, if you look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that it's squeezing hard. It got rejected from the top of the upper Bollinger Band over here last week, formed a little bit of a bearish candle over here. You know, it does look a little bit like a gravestone doji or a little bit of inverted hammer or a shooting star, whatever you call it. Usually end up having a little bit of inverted hammer, kind of like you did over here. It can be a little bit of a bearish development, vice versa, right? Vice versa. If you look at a little bit of like a hammer candle over here, generally it might end up being the close to the bottom. So right now, because of this candle, I did end up buying when price went down to maybe like around 23 or so, 23, like high 23s. I did end up buying a lot more. But I was anticipating potentially it could even drop down to some of the lower levels. For example, you do have a support band right underneath of it. I can potentially see it drop underneath to like 23, or maybe even to like 22, or even lower to like this volume shelf over here around like 21.3, 21.5, which is going to be confluent if the Ichimoku class support. You see that the Tenkan right here around 23.4. And you see the Kijun down here, the red line over here is around 21.5. So you see a lot of confluence of support underneath this zone right here. The risk to me is relatively low because it's a very, very nice bull trend. You got a Bollinger Band squeeze over here, so potentially anticipating a bigger move that might end up pushing price up a lot higher because it's above all of these support zone because the bullish support end is pointing up, right? So there's a lot of really bullish development that are happening. On top of that, you also have a lot of whalish momentum underneath. Basically, you have no retail left over here on the weekly MCDX Plus, right? A lot of whalish momentum there coming in. So everything looks pretty grand except for this candle over here that did look a little bit bearish, but you shouldn't be basing off your investment strategy or your trading strategy just simply based on one candle morphology because it's right at a lot of different support down here. And it looks like it might be a little bit of bullish continuation this week as a result. And just look at how nice it's a nice bull trend. And you got a very, very nice Bollinger and squeeze over here. What happened last time you had Bollinger and squeeze over here? You did have a little bit of a push up higher, although, you know, obviously eventually end up pushing down a lot lower. But these Bollinger and band squeeze sometimes can happen before a big move like this, another big move up like that, right? So far you have a very, very nice Bollinger and band squeeze that are happening over here. And if you also look at Ichimoku Cloud, basically price just been oscillating between the Tenkan, the blue line, and the Kijun, the red line over here for a few months. And right now, it looks like it wants to break back about the Tenkan, the blue line over here, and the blue line never really crossed over the red line over here for a very, very long time, really since May of 2023 for a whole year. You know, the entire thing actually looks like a bull trend here on the weekly, which is pretty impressive. Whales have been staying in the entire time. It's been staying more than 50% throughout the entire time. You know, retail might have gotten maybe a little bit closer to like 15-20%, but never really like went too far beyond that. So this is a very, very, very nice bull trend here on the weekly chart. You look at the Tsubishi Cloud, which takes into account, it's a lot smoother because it also takes into account a super trend. And super trend generally just looks a lot smoother. And you look at the, you had a bullish crossover here in May 2023, right? The Tenkan never really crossed back underneath the Kijun. And the entire thing just looked like a bull trend. It just looked very, very, very bullish. Sometimes it went back down and back test the Kijun down underneath, but eventually they'll always find support and just push price up higher, which is exactly what it's doing right now. Right now, price has gotten back above the Tenkan, which again favors further bullish continuation. You have a little bit of a, not a little bit, a lot of volume show over here is going to serve as resistance. I think as long as price is able to break about, I would say like maybe around 27, maybe 28 to be conservative. If you have price bigger about 28, that's when you're really talking about, you know, price could go up a lot higher if you're able to break above that zone. There are some concerns in terms of trying to break above that zone, even from the RSI standpoint, because you look at the RSI, what's really been happening is like this entire move up here has been happening on a weekly on bearish divergence. Your price just keep on going up, and the RSI, the top of the RSI keeps on going down, right? So because of the bearish diversion that's been building up, that's why we're having a hard time kind of push up higher, and you actually end up getting a little bit of a RSI trend line over here. So I do think that whenever we end up pushing about the current resistance zone, which is around 27.28, if you're able to push back above that, you might end up hitting the top of the RSI trend line up here. If it breaks the RSI trend line and it keeps on going higher to like the 70s and 80s, then you're talking about price potentially going to be in the 30s in a hurry. But you never want it to be too bullish when it's right at resistance, although I do see potentially price breaking above this volume shelf over here, and as a result may end up breaking this RSI and just end up going a lot higher after that. We will see, right? That's just a hypothesis, but the whales certainly look like they want to do something. Look at a monthly chart. Like, there's no way I'm bearish on Palantir on the monthly chart because it's pulling off a rising 3, right? One big giant green candle on high volume, 3 smaller candles, inside candles, essentially inside, right? Trying, like, bears are given an opportunity for 3 months straight to try and push price lower. They're not able to do that. Bulls sniffed it out. They're trying to reverse all this bearish action with just 1 or 2 candles. Right now for the month of June, you only have maybe 3 trading days left, so I really doubt that we're not going to get a rising 3 where price just end up pushing above and break the resistance, right? But I do think that we're getting set up for maybe around July or August to potentially break this strong resistance. And when it does, it's going to go a lot higher, but be a strong resistance because price has spent for a whole year around late 2020 to late 2021, right around this range over here, building a big volume shelf that it needs to break above, and it's just unable to do so at this point. Whales are building momentum, though. You have around 73% whales so far. Really not much retail left, so I think that things are looking more and more bullish. Whenever you're really talking about a big move up, you can potentially have whale going up to like the 80s and 90s. That's when things really get fun, right? That's when things really, really do get fun. Look at the Ichimoku cloud on the monthly. You can see how nicely the Tenkan and the Kijun had a nice bullish cross over here around December 2024, December 2023, January 2024. Nice bullish cross, right? After that, nice separation between the Tenkan and Kijun. And the Tenkan has served as support for 3 months straight. And the Tenkan is also curling up, right? So all of these are pretty bullish indicators for Palantir. I think Palantir is going to end up doing pretty decent moving forward. And honestly, like, there's really nothing bearish about this chart. So far, I do think in the month of July or August, you're going to see the upper Bollinger Band continue to push up higher. It might get up to like 28, 29, 30 over the next couple of months. And that's probably going to end up serving as a magnet for price to go up higher and break above the current range that we're in right now. That's what I'm seeing with Palantir in terms of what you think about the price targets over, you look at a monthly chart over the next years to come. I'll show you what I think if you do a Fibonacci extension all the way from the previous all-time high, which is around $40. It's not going to be perfect. I'm just going to do it rough here. Around $45, and the lower right here is around $6. You can see that price has really been respecting these Fibonacci levels pretty nicely, right? Over here, it's just been bouncing between these two levels around 0.236, 0.382. And then it broke above that to the next level, is bouncing over the next couple of Fibonacci levels. Once it breaks above, you might have some resistance around 30, 37, and 45. But I really do think over the next 3 to 5 years, and I'm talking about, what I mean by 3 to 5 years, I'm talking about like maybe 2027, 2028, 2029, somewhere around there. I can see price potentially hit up to the 2.618 level. I can see price potentially be like 108 or 110, somewhere around there. I can totally see that. Because this is a bull trend, it's been doing nothing but forming higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and higher low. And there's a lot of resistance over here. Once you break above this resistance, you're really talking about price could go up in a hurry over the next 3 to 5 years to potentially triple digits. And that would not faze me at all. That would not faze me at all. Especially if the whales continue to increase up to like 80 or 90%, that would not faze me at all. That's Palantir, my biggest position. I can potentially see myself adding a little bit more before breaking out of this range, and after that I'm just going to hold and see where it takes me. Another stock that I think is very bullish, but it may be a little bit overextended, although I think that most likely is going to end up having a lot of bullish continuation, is CrowdStrike. This is the weekly chart, CrowdStrike, weekly chart, you have a lot of whales. Whales are still staying in greater than 90%. You do have a little bit of a gap underneath below here as one close until you get price get to around like 350. But I'm not sure it's going to end up closing this cycle. It might end up closing in the future cycle. But sometimes you have these breakaway gaps that just never fill, So I don't necessarily, want to get too bearish on it. It did have a big giant, red candle over here where price just went nowhere. You know why that is? Because it got simply way outside the upper Bollinger Band here, and the price just ended up getting pulled down, right? You want to expand the Bollinger Band before going up higher. But on the upper Bollinger Band and the lower Bollinger Band on the weekly here, you can see they're nicely separating, and the 20-week moving average is pointing up. So it's really more very, very similar look like it's over here. You might have a little bit of sideways here for about a few weeks like it did over here. But overall, the Bollinger Band, I expect continue to expand. I expect the price to keep going up higher to 400, 500, and then potentially 700. I'll show you why I think that is the case in a little bit. But so far, it's looking pretty good. Whales are there to support it. I don't think the gap's necessarily going to end up closing. The Ichimoku cloud looks like it's just a little bit far extended from the Tenkan. So it might end up going sideways to wait for the Tenkan to catch up. But sometimes it can just keep going up, right? You can just drag the Tenkan up along with it over time. And eventually you're going to end up getting punished for it. But, right now I think it looks like it wants to go up higher. Let's see here. The monthly. I want to show the monthly Ichimoku cloud. You have a very nice bullish crossover here in December 2023, just like you did with Palantir. You don't quite have the Ichimoku cloud quite just yet. It is starting to get formed. And even if we're talking about like some of the beginning of the Ichimoku cloud, this is one of the leading span lines over here, it already broke above that. So theoretically, if there was an Ichimoku cloud, it would have been above it. And so far, price did end up being a little bit too far away from the Tenkan, but Tenkan looks like it points up very, very impulsively. And this whole month of June over here is also happening on a huge volume. So I can potentially see maybe over the next few months, maybe end up going sideways a little bit, slowly go up to like the 400, 500 range, maybe over the next 6 to 12 months or so. And eventually hit some of the targets up here. And that's probably going to be some pretty strong resistance, and we might need to consolidate up there for a little bit longer. But so far, so good. I'm not really that worried. On the monthly, you can also see that this is a very, very nice bull trend because you have a nice separation at the upper and lower Bollinger Band. It's expanding. Looks like it wants to keep going up higher to the 400, 500 range. It looks like it wants to keep kind of just pushing the upper Bollinger Band, keep on pushing up until things get maybe a little bit short term, exhausted, go sideways up here before some potentially some bullish continuation before the entire trend gets exhausted. But so far, there's really no reason to think that this trend is exhausted because whales are like 100% on the monthly, which is insane. This is a very bullish chart. You chase momentum, like this is it. Does it mean that you're not going to get volatility? No, you can potentially have volatility. It would not surprise me at all if it ends up coming back down here, end up closing the gap, had a little nice wick down here, close the gap, and go up higher. That would be like a negative 10% move from like 380 to like 350. Like that would be like a scary 10% move going down, going up. Grab liquidity down here before going up further. That would not surprise me a bit. Do you think this is going to happen? I'm not sure. Ichimoku cloud, again, a little bit too far extended. So I can potentially see things kind of either going sideways here or just slowly a little bit meld up over here. But it's a little bit extended. I don't like chasing something like this. I don't mind chasing Palantir because it looks like it's at least getting close to support, but I just hate chasing something like CrowdStrike. Although, do I think that it's probably end up doubling over the next like 12 to 18 months? I think it's possible. CrowdStrike can double. That's CrowdStrike. If you also want to look at like why I think that the targets I have was the target that I have, I'm going to pull up the weekly chart here. I'm going to show you it again. I really do think that some of the ARC targets over here is probably going to end up getting hit sometime over the next like 12 to like 6 to 12 months, I should say, right? Which is going to be around 400. It's going to be around like maybe like high 400s, maybe even 500 depending on where it hits. And that's probably going to end up being resistance up here for a while. And then the next level is probably going to be up here once it's done testing this level. I mean, that could be the top, possible. And it could just go down to R and just keep going down from there. But if you don't think that this is going to be top, if you end up having, like an AI super cycle, whatever, yeah, making another leg up, it might end up exhausting another leg up a little bit further to like 700, 715, somewhere around there. That could be the top. You could end up hitting some of the arc up here, maybe even get to like 1,000, and that could be the top, right? In a couple of years. I don't know. What I'm saying is that the whales are still in, the momentum's still up, and the Bollinger Band is just nicely expanding, allow price to go up higher to these levels over here. So I'm not going to bother calling a top, really. That's CrowdStrike. So what is the one that is actually looking pretty scary, and it looks so bad that it could be good, but there's no guarantee, and this is still a falling knife, is Snowflake. Snowflake looks scary. It looks absolutely scary because it is a falling knife, and it's been falling about 6 months in a row. Oh, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, falling 5 months in a row, relentlessly, right? On high volume. And this happened when initially you have a little bit of an ascending triangle look to it, where you're basically breaking through this resistance up here, and you're having increasing support showing increasing demand. And next thing you know, it just broke through underneath the potential ascending triangle. I don't like the volume is increasing on this downtrend, so as far as I'm concerned, it's still a falling knife. I don't like how the whale momentum is going down and how retail momentum is picking up. So this is still a falling knife until further notice. The thing about it is, like, what are some of the potential support down here? I'm going to keep drawing lines. Like, sometimes these lines don't mean anything. Like, could it end up being just like a little bit of like a brutal backtest of this bear market, bear trend? Possible, right? That would be a very, very brutal backtest. Like, it looks like it's just bam, bam, bam. It just keeps on going lower, right? So that's one way to kind of look at it. Actually, I think that's kind of one way to kind of look at it. But I'm gonna actually move that over here. Yeah, that makes more sense. That's one way to look at it, but it just looks like it's a downtrend. Like, even look at it again. I was trying to find support. Looks like it broke underneath through the support, right? It's been trying to find the angle. It's been trying to find the horizontal line over here and trying to flip that back into support. It just got rejected. And as soon as it got rejected, it went down to the arc. And it's not even able to hold the top of the arc over here. It just went down, not able to hold this angle over here. It just kept going down. This is still very much a falling knife. Whereas before, it was really looking like it was wanting to break above all of these arc over here, break above this arc, back test it. It got resistance over here at the horizontal, back test the arc, found support, went to the next arc, got rejected. And when it got rejected up here, it really went very, very brutal. I don't know where support's going to be down here based on, again, I really don't. It's a falling knife. If you are a knife catcher, and I get knife catchy sometimes, but I just don't know if I want to catch this knife. But if you're a knife catcher, look at the RSI. Whew, man, it's down to like the low 30s, kind of like how it was over here. You see how, RSI was like in the low 30s. You thought that this could have been the bottom. Next thing you know, it ended up making another leg down, all the way from like 160 all the way down to like 110. And RSI kept going down to like, the high 20s from like the low 30s, right? There was not really any like bullish divergence over here to tell you that this is the bottom. So if you're bought over here, you're really seriously like catching a falling knife. And if you're bought at the bottom over here, you're lucky, or you're just buying this big giant capitulation can over here and saying that that's the bottom. But you could have very well called this a capitulation can over here too. So right now, it's hard. I can't say that the snow is bottomed. I really can't. It's finding a horizontal zone over here, anywhere from like 110 to 120. It's found like a little bit of horizontal zone over here that is really slowing down this bearish momentum. But there's still not like any bullish diversions that I can really pick up for me to say, this is time to buy. I just don't have it. The thing about it is that if you look at over here, you have some pretty big bearish volume over here, but price really has kind of barely budged. So I do think that a lot of people are trying to buy the zone. I do think that there's a little bit of a deceleration in terms of that, but I just can't be sure, that it won't go lower. the thing about the weekly chart too, like the lower Bollinger Band is all the way down to like 100, right? 20-week moving average, which is in conjunction with the Bollinger Support Band, it's down sloping, right? Got rejected over here back in May 20th of 2024, just a month ago, right? It looks like you're going to fight for a lot of resistance, right? If you look at Ichimoku Cloud, you're also going to fight for a lot of resistance over here, right? Around the 140, anywhere to 180 range, there's a lot of resistance, right? So it's hard. Initially, you're hoping to kind of break back inside the cloud, but it got rejected. So be it. Sometimes these things happen. So the problem is I'm not really seeing any confirmation. If you're buying it, you'd be buying falling knife, hoping for the best. And you could still end up catching a pretty good falling knife. You can time the bottom, but I'm just not confident in this. One glimpse of hope. You remember how I was saying how you have these like big volume over here? They're like red volumes. They're down volumes, but the price really like didn't budge that much. I really still do think that you do have a little bit of a potential bullish divergence where you have the on balance volume that just kind of went flat from August of 2023 up to now, when price had went down from August 2023 up to now, right? So I do think that the whales have been trying to slowly quietly buy some behind the scene to kind of help stabilize the price here a little bit. But again, no confirmation. If you buy Snowflake, you'll be buying falling knife, which is, I do that all the time. It's fine. Like if you want to do that, that's fine. But I just want to have what you're getting yourself into, and there is no confirmation that I can find. On the monthly chart, another thing that may signify that it might have potentially bottomed is that price went pretty close to the lower Bollinger Band here on the monthly. Now, the problem with this is that the Bollinger Band is expanding in both ways. And because it's expanding, there's potential for price to keep going down, especially if the volume is increasing. There's no guarantee that this is the bottom, but if you were going to time the bottom, I think when price hit the lower Bollinger Band, that's generally a pretty good bottom, but there's no confirmation. 20-month moving average is also pointing down. That could also serve as resistance. So you're going to have 140, 180 is going to be a very, very strong resistance zone. And if you wait for price to go from 120, maybe even go on 110, 100, I don't know how far it's going to go down, right? If it ends up bouncing and just retrace back to the mean, that's still a pretty significant gain all the way from 120s all the way to 150s. That's still a pretty significant gain, right? But you might be hitting a lot of resistance up here, so that would be more of a trade. If you really believe in the fundamentals of Snowflake, if you really want to buy into Snowflake, yeah, I think this area down here is going to be a lot better than buying up here in the 200s. But there's no guarantee. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to my rant. Have a good one. Bye.